Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, YIC members, and welcome to this evening's goal-setting webinar, presented by YIC President Louise Wellings and guest speaker Kirsten Marriott. My name is Kai, and I'll be working in the background tonight. Before I hand things off to Lou to get things started, I'd like to ask you if my audio is coming through clearly. If it is, could you please raise your hand by clicking the hand symbol on the GoToWebinar dashboard? There it is right there. And I see those hands coming up. Tyrone, Jimmy, Danielle, thank you. If you would like to ask a question during the presentation, please do so by typing the questions box on the GoToWebinar dashboard. We may not be able to get to every question tonight, but over the upcoming days, we will respond back to you through email. If you are using Voice over IP for your audio connection, I recommend that for best audio results, you close down any other online programs that you have running in the background, such as Skype, email, or YouTube. This also applies for other computers in the house. Tonight we have 3 polls that are spread throughout the presentation, and I do ask that you participate in them. We are also recording this webinar, and all attendees tonight will receive a copy of the webinar via an email from GoToWebinar. Other webinars are stored, and Lou can send those links out to you. Once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight, and at this point I'd like to hand things over to Lou to get us started. Lou, over to you.
Thanks, Kai. As a bit of an explanation before we start off tonight, you're going to get my voice, but Rob's going to be helping me with the sort of logistics of navigating the presentation, etc. So if you do get any hiccups, you can be assured that in the background I will be kicking him and we will be having a marital dispute about who made the mistake. But tonight's topic, we're looking at goal setting, particularly focused around our Young Investors Club members. We've got a guest speaker, Kirsten Marriott, joining us tonight. Kirsten is our National Training and Sales Manager, but she also works in the field of mind transformation. She's an author and a property investor, so we're very fortunate to have Kirsten join us this evening. Just a bit of a disclaimer before we start. If you'd like to have a read of the information on your screen, just basically touches on the fact that property purchase and wealth creation are important and long-term investments, and it's really important that you consult appropriate professionals, be that mortgage brokers, your solicitor, quantity surveyors, etc., to guide you in your property investment journey. So what prompted tonight's webinar? Well, I guess we're looking a little bit at the fear factor and how that can influence our setting of goals. I mean, talking to some members of late, I was hearing that a lot of people are fearful about the information that they hear in the media. And if you've ever listened to Chief Economist Clifford Bennett, who does a lot of work with the club, if you've ever listened to his presentations at either our national conference or our property expos, you will hear Clifford talk about how the media is designed to sell fear. He talks about fear selling. And he talks about how it's important that we try not to read the papers or watch television with all their doom and gloom reports. And it's important to talk to fellow investors and like-minded people, maybe rather than our family and friends who are not in the property market. As club members, we've seen that it's important not to get caught up in market bumps and interest rate adjustments and government changes along the way, because that can really create within us a sense of fear. So on that note, what I wanted to do was focus around goal setting, and I thought the perfect person to be able to help us with that would be Kirsten. A book I've been reading lately, written by Adrian Hill, which is predominantly focused around taxation, had this quote in it which sort of stuck out when I was reading it. So it's talking about, before you invest a single cent in property, or anywhere else for that matter, you need to invest in yourself. And that's one of the things Kirsten's going to help us with tonight. So one of the polls that we've got that Kai mentioned, if I hand over to Kai, he's going to get that poll open and running for us.
Thank you, Lou, and that poll is up on your screen right now. Do you have any plans to purchase a property within the next 6, 12, 18 or more months, or possibly never? So if you could please indicate your response, and just as we wait for those responses to hit 80% of the vote, Lou, do you want to just remind people what's in our handout section on the GoToWebinar dashboard? I can also, oh, Lou might be muted there. So just in the handouts section, we do have an FWC, a goal setting handout that Kristen will be referring to in a members benefits section. So with that, I will close that poll down and share the results. For everyone. Lou, I might just unmute you there.
Lovely, thanks, Kai. Yes, I had muted myself. Or should I say Rob muted me? Probably a common thing.
So those results are up on your screen right now. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. And I think we're now over to our guest speaker.
Yes, we'll hand over to Kirsten at this point. Thanks, Kirsten. Take it away.
Thank you, and welcome again to everyone this evening. I'm just waiting for that screen. You're going to click that over, Kai?
Yeah.
So we're looking at goals tonight, and so what are goals, and how important is it to set the goals, and overcome fears of not achieving what you're setting out to, or there's multiple fears that can come into goal setting. So one thing for successful reaching your goals is to know what you really want. And we don't spend time investing in ourselves, as Adrian Hill's quote that Lou read out earlier. So you need to invest in yourself, and that can be just a matter of sitting down and putting some time aside to see what you really want. So that is important. I'm not able to click through to the next one, Kai. That is important in the areas. There we go. There's 5 key areas: family and friend relationships. So the relationships are the people who you want in your life, the type of people you want in your life. You do need to set goals around that as well. Then the here we go. There we go. Financial goals. So this is where property can come into that equation in your goal setting. So what you want to achieve financially. Property is a vehicle that you can use for setting up in your future. So we'll look at that a little bit further tonight. Look at your spiritual goals. So how you're relating to the world as well. So that is very important. Health and fitness goals. There's no point having other goals if you're not planning to spend time on your health, fitness and wellness. So that is really key, really important. A lot of people spend a lot of time chasing wealth at the sacrifice of their health and well-being. So it is important that you do take a priority and set goals around that. Then also your career and business goals. So having a look there. So it's important to discover what you really want in your life and your future. And also a key takeaway is ensure your goals reflect your own desires, because in our life we have so many influences. Our parents come into the equation and we tend to follow their goals or their patterns, what we perceive to be what they want. So just really tune in with yourself and make sure that you're reflecting on your desires. So if you know your why, and if it is strong enough, all the how falls into place. Everything comes in. So it is really important that you know what you really want. So how do we do that? How do we nut it out? The handout, the goal setting handout there, so if you're wanting to print that off, and take some time after the webinar to go through each section and work out. I've broken it down so that for each of the 5 areas, you can work out your long-term goals. So what do they look like for family and relationships? Your intermediate goals, what do you want that to look like? 1 year, 6 months, and 1 month. So what actions do you need to take in now, in the coming month, to start leveraging or platforming yourself into achieving your long-term goals? Once you have that clarity around where you want to go, there will be no stopping you. You'll be amazed at the results that you get. If you fail to plan, you're actually planning to fail. So you need to put that forward. Yep, things change when you're setting goals. There'll be priorities that come up, and what you once thought may not be quite as important, and that's fine. This is life. It fluctuates. So you go through that exercise with all of the topics or the areas. It's all exactly the same, and go through and just really invest that time in yourself, because this one is you won't hit much if there's always a question in your life, so you're not sure what you want. So I can't emphasize enough that really taking that time. So when you're operating from a vision, when you know what you're really wanting to do, be honest. So be honest with yourself. So tell the truth as if it is for you. You know, be really honest and communicate. So you communicate and express who you really are when you're writing the goals, not someone else. Participate 100%. So contribute and make a positive difference. We can't, any goals that we don't actually take action towards, it's actually a wish list. It doesn't happen. We need to actually take the action. Take risks. So being prepared to move through your own limitations. Limitations are set by our paradigm, so old experiences that we've had. And our subconscious mind is basically there to protect us from making another mistake, because it may have hurt us at some level. We've created a belief around ourselves. So taking the risk and pushing through that sends a message that, no, I'm on purpose here. I'm moving forward. Take personal responsibility as well. So you and only you are responsible for your behaviour and your results. So take 100% ownership of that. You're not responsible for what someone else did. That's not your error. So, and then blaming them is not going to help you move forward and propel forward either. So build partnerships. So especially around the property investing, the Investors Club is a great partner to have to move through and help you through that journey and helping you to plan. So the partnerships is very important. You're not here alone on this earth. There are people there that are around to help and support you through that. Be committed to your goal and stay. So do whatever it takes to create your desired results ethically. So you're not trying to be deceptive in any of this. It's all about being an ethical in your results. And also have positive expectations. So expect to create the result that you desire. So also be open and receptive and prepare to change, because if we don't change, nothing will happen. Because if we're looking at the current results that we've got and they're not what we want to have for the rest of our life, we do need to change. Because the current results we have now are from our old thinking. So that's got us to where we are today. So we need to start thinking about what we want in the future, because what we start thinking about today is what we'll receive in the future. So the change. So that's a really big one to look at as well. So use integrity too when you're writing those goals, and and living and taking action towards the goals. So playing by the rules and just do it. You know, like as Nike says, just do it. Because our fears and our old beliefs get in the way and says you can't, but just push through that and keep going. Celebrate, so create joy in the process as you have those little wins. This is why the 1 month goals are so important to set, because you can tick them off. And it can be a matter of, like for financial goals, for example, if you're wanting to save some money for a deposit, and your goal is for the first month that you would like to have $600 saved. When you have that $600 saved, acknowledge that, celebrate that, and just say, yeah, wow, I did it, because that will just create momentum and it will boost you as you go forward to your next 6 months. And care enough about yourself and care enough about others to make a positive difference when you're going through the goal settings. You are, as they say in the aeroplanes when they drop the face mask down, that take the oxygen yourself first. This is very important. Self-care is vital for longevity, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So you do need to take that self-care. So put that in also in your goals under the spiritual and health and fitness. Also listen and act on feedback positively. A lot of people give us feedback, and sometimes it can be negative, or it may not be negative. It may be just the way that we perceive it. So just take that on board and go, okay, that's great. Thank you for that information. And because that could be something vital that they say. If we take the personal out of it, so take ourselves that it's not a personal comment, it's just feedback, and look at how that can help us move forward in our goals. And understanding. Make sure you understand and you comprehend what you're trying to achieve as well. So no pie in the sky things like I'm going to, live on the moon. Something like that's really unrealistic. Just be sure that you can achieve that as well. And trust yourself. It's really important that we trust ourselves as we're setting our goals. And use your abilities, know what they are and use them wisely. And as we said earlier, that partner up with people if you don't have all the skills required. Be accountable when you're setting goals, and then also follow through. So follow through, take that action that's required. SMART goals. SMART goals are how we go about putting it down on paper. So is your goal written specifically with a clear intended achievement? In this field of property investing, we hear it a lot that I want to be a millionaire. Well, that's great. That's fantastic. But what does that look like? What does that mean? So if it's not written down and specific with a clear intended achievement, we need to have it written like, so instead of I'm saving for a deposit, for example, I'm going to have $50,000 for a deposit by whatever date and claim that. That's a specific goal. So if you've done that, is your goal trackable? So can you measure your progress as you go? So the 1 month mark, it may have been that I wanted to have $1,000 saved. So have I done that? Is it trackable? If it's a $50,000 deposit in 18 months, am I well on track? So track back and see how that is looking for you. So if it's not, get out your journals, get out your spreadsheets, anything that you use to measure your achievements. And when they are reached, tick them off and give yourself a little happy dance. Really get into that and enjoy it. So if they are trackable, then you move into, is your goal actually attainable? Is it within your reasonable reach? So if it's not, we're making sure that it's an attainable goal. So goals that are actually within your grasp. So if you're wanting to have 5 investment properties in 12 months and you're earning $75,000, that might be not quite attainable if that's all you're doing. But if wanting to have 5 properties maybe over 10 years or 6 years or something like that, it's more realistic. So look at that as you're planning with your properties. So again, realistic. So is it realistic? Do you have the tools to achieve it, and are they available to you? So if they're not, ensure that you have that team behind you. So especially with your property investing, ensure that you have things in place like your wealth check. Do you know how much that you can or how much you need to get into the property investment? And if they are realistic, does your goal have a clear deadline or a time frame in place? We need them to be timely. So timely goals, they have clear time frames and deadlines, so they drive you to attaining them. And if you're not feeling driven to attain them, you really haven't found out the reason why that you're wanting to achieve this. Because it's all about your why you're doing something is the feeling and the thing that gets you out of bed. So if you haven't found that, it's just like, oh, that'd be nice, then it's not going to drive you to actually attain that outcome that you're after. So that's why it is really important to invest that time in yourself to sit there. Okay, say, okay, I want this financial freedom because I'll drive a nice car. Yeah, okay. Why do you want to drive a nice car? Well, because I'll feel good about myself. Yep, great. Why do you want to feel good about yourself? So really drill in, drill in to see why and what that is. At the end of the day, what we really all want is just feeling that inner peace and freedom to be who we are. So once we've created that goal, it's now time to take action. This is where the fears start to raise their head. So they come up and it's like, you don't deserve that. No way. You couldn't possibly do that. You don't have the education to do that. Who do you think you are? Those type of things come into your head. So your inner critic bounces up and tells you that you're not worthy of that goal. So this is some homework for you after you've written that goal. Write 100 reasons why you deserve to reach your goal. And look at them. This is about you. Because as we're going through writing that, why you deserve to reach that goal, you're creating new neural pathways, new beliefs in your subconscious mind that is going to take you to the level that you want to be. If you still have the inner critic popping up, do 1,000 reasons why. And just continually just write it. Don't take a break and go off. Just sit there and let it flow. Get into your heart and just say, okay, what is it? What is it that I really want? And why do I deserve that? So that's why if your why is so big and about a greater than just having $1 million in the bank account, because what does that mean? What does that do? It may be that having that $1 million in the bank account gives you the freedom to go and do some community service or, help out with some new development or something. So just look at what that means to you. Because we're overcoming the can'ts. All that can't do's becomes I can do it. So it's really important that you take that time and invest in yourself and then really engage in with the team that's going to help you launch through and take you through. With the Property Club, there's so many tools and experienced mentors that can help you leverage and get to where you're wanting to be. Okay, well that's it from me, Lou.
Lovely, thanks Kirsten. So we're just going to go to a quick poll here. Kai's going to get that up and running for us. If you have a look on your screen, lots of people set goals and far fewer people achieve them. Have you ever been guilty of setting a goal and not achieving it? So we'd love to hear your answer, yes or no.
And
don't forget.
That poll is up and running right now, Lou?
Thanks, Kai. And don't forget Kirsten's handout is available to you if you want to download that and print it out to start working on some of your 1 month, 6 month goals, etc.
Okay, I'll close that poll down now and I can share the results. 100% yes right now.
Lovely.
And now I think we're on to questions, Lou.
Yes, we are. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to just take some questions from Kirsten before she needs to leave us this evening. I've seen a couple come through, Kirsten, that I'll direct your way if that's okay. One has come through where a member has said they often set goals, maybe like going to boot camp on their way home from work, but as they leave work, they lose their motivation and just head straight home or go out for dinner with friends. Have you got any tips on how to stay motivated?
Yeah, looking at like boot camp, something that we all get a bit scared of because we know it hurt last time. So, and this is just a classic for the subconscious mind, you know, because it says, "Oh, that hurt." Maybe, you know, going out with friends, that's really nice. So when you've got your goals down, especially in that area with the health and fitness area, and if your goal is to trim down or just stay lean or whatever it is, the reason why. So why is it that you want to be like that? Not just that you want to look hot, you know, because heck, we all look hot in our own way, but it's the reason why that you want that you know, you're able then to go off and, you know, link it to something that you really want to achieve. And once you link it in to that value system, there'll be no stopping you. Excuse me, you'll be going to boot camp. You know, you'll be going there, you'll be exercising with that vision. And I didn't mention either, when you're writing that goal and writing that goals and that what you're wanting to achieve, sit in it and feel it. Feel what that'll feel like for you. You know, what will that feelings, where will you be? Who will you be seeing? Who will you be sitting around with? And just keep doing that often, because it then becomes a reality because you're seeing it so much. We automatically play the negative in our life because that's just how we're programmed, as Lou opened up with, especially in the media. It's all based on fear and negativity. So we need to take responsibility ourselves and start playing our own movie in our mind of what we want to achieve.
That's a great answer. Thanks, Kirsten. Another question we've had come through is, what if I've created my goal, but I'm afraid to take action?
Okay, so have a look at why you're afraid. So is it similar to something you've created before, or have you set a goal that you traumatically crashed and burned at? Because you need to go back and address the feelings that you experienced at that stage and the beliefs you formed about yourself. Because that is where it's all just a perception. It's not the truth. So you just need to go back and look at that. And usually I call it goal setting trauma, because it's traumatic when you've got this beautiful vision and dream there, but you just sort of that step to take forward and to edge in. So there'll be something somewhere, excuse me, it could be a comment that someone said that to you, you kind of went, oh, okay, I possibly can't do that, you know. So just really sit down with yourself and ask, where is it in my life that this has happened to me, that someone said I couldn't do something, I couldn't make it? Because what it either does to us is make us squash us or make us rise up, so that the tiger or the lion within will rise up. So a negative comment can spur us either way. So just really tune in and sit with it and say, okay, I've got this goal, this is what I want to do, why am I stopping? And I do, you know, work with people one-on-one to actually find the event, and we clear that the belief system that's around that. We do some processes and work on that. So it is important to find it, and once that belief is found and dispelled, because you're the only one that has the power to change that belief and go, well, that's a lot of rubbish, I don't believe that anymore. It's just that power in knowing what it was that's created that. And as soon as you become conscious or aware, then you'll be no stopping you. You'll kick yourself. You go, what the heck? Why was that stopping me? It was only a tiny little thing that someone said or I experienced. So yeah, it can create trauma. If you're stuck, you need to go back and look and see why.
Great. Thanks, Kirsten. I don't think we've had any other questions come through at this stage, so thank you very much for joining us this evening and being our guest speaker. It's been great having you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so leading on from Kirsten's goal setting, what we're going to look at is some property related goals. So if you have set yourself a goal to purchase X amount of properties or to become, for example, one of our Property Millionaire Club members, what might some of your goals look like? So these are designed, I guess, to give you a bit of a starter about some of the things that you might want to set as a goal. For example, it might be that you need the deposit for an investment property. For some of us, that might be withdrawing equity from an existing property we own. It might be our own home, for example. It might be equity from a parent's home. Mum and dad might be able to withdraw equity from their property and lend you the funds, for example. For others, it might be savings, so that you have a goal to say, okay, I'm going to save X amount of dollars in a particular time frame. And one of the ways in which we can find out if that goal is realistic is to fill out your financial wealth check. Again, Kai's popped that in the handouts for you, because what our club brokers can do is they can model a scenario where you're looking at, for example, a $350,000 purchase or a $450,000 purchase, and they can model the scenario based on the amount of deposit you would need, your legal fees, your stamp duty involved in that type of purchase, and the other costs. So that then helps you work out, okay, well, to purchase a property of X amount of dollars, I'm going to need X amount for my deposit and costs, whether that be through my equity or my savings. Having a budget. People often say to me, oh God, Lou, I hate that word. I hate thinking about having a budget. They're so restrictive, and I can't stick to a budget, and, it's never realistic, and, I can't even afford, my basic things, let alone adding savings into a budget. So that might be one of your goals, is just to set up a budget for yourself. A time frame for your purchase. So some of us might say, I want to purchase X amount of properties in X amount of time. Kirsten talked about, is it realistic to say, okay, well, I want to buy 5 properties in the next 12 months? Well, if you know, for example, that, mum and dad might be able to lend you some money, grandma's dying and you're going to get an inheritance, if you're expecting, for example, a windfall, winning lotto, although I'm not sure you can particularly count on that, if you have things like that you might be able to factor in to your time frame. Some people have a goal to look at properties, for example, that are complete now, so they're a built property. Other people like to look at off-the-plan properties, and I guess there's different reasons for looking at each of those. Something that is off the plan allows you to obviously purchase at today's price, and you don't necessarily need the funds to settle on that property until it's complete. So that suits, I guess, some people's goals and their time frames. For others, that thought is a bit scary or daunting, and they would much rather purchase something that is complete. So that's one of the goals or the plans that you can have a chat about with your property mentor. Understanding your cash flow position needs to be a really important goal. As an investor, you need to know how your property is performing. You need to be familiar with your cash flow position. You need to know before you buy the property how much it's going to cost you per week to own. And that's important because if you're planning on owning this property for the long term, you need to know that, okay, at the moment interest rates are, for example, 4.8%, and this property is costing me $5 a week and I can afford that. What might it look like if interest rates were 4%? Or what might it look like if interest rates are 5.2%? So you need to know what your cash flow position is. You need to know what happens if your rent increases or your rent decreases. Can you afford to own that property? You don't want to end up in a position where you are forced to sell a property because you've misunderstood your cash flow position and you can't afford to hold it. As a property investor, something else that's really important to us is understanding the tax implications and our obligations. Tax is not always the most interesting topic to try and get your head around. And later on this year in our webinar series, I'm going to have one of our club accountants come along and talk to us about the stuff that, as a young investor who's starting out, maybe owning your first property, etc., some of the things that we need to get our head around. It might be, for example, how long we need to keep our records for. What records do we need to keep and provide to our accountant? So it's really important that you understand those, so that, for example, if you are ever subjected to an audit with the tax office, you're able to hand on heart say, look, you know, I've met my obligations, and here's the records that you required me to keep, and here's the records that I've got to be able to produce to you. Having a support team around you is really important, and that might be one of your goals. Might be a goal that you say, okay, you know, this year I really want to find a good accountant who specialises in property investment, because last year I did my tax return and I don't think I quite got back everything that I might have been entitled to. It might be that you think, I'm not sure that my broker's doing the best for me. Maybe they're a little bit conservative. Maybe they're a bit bullish and you're not quite comfortable with their approach. So up on your screen, you've got, I guess, just a few different people that I've popped down that I thought are probably important as part of, I guess, your strategy for developing an investment property portfolio. It's important people to have on board that you can chat openly and honestly with. Now look, Rob and I are arguing over the mouse. Okay, so finally he's got us to the next slide. So why do we need these goals? We need goals to help us overcome our fears. And I've jotted down here some of the things that our members tell us they fear. So it might be losing money. People are worried about buying a property today at $320,000 and in 4 years' time it's worth $280,000, for example. People tell me that they're afraid of debt. They're afraid of having debt. They're afraid of how they're going to pay the mortgage. They're afraid of what happens if a tenant moves out and they have to pay the mortgage on their own. Failure is a really scary word, and people can often be worried about failing, about not achieving, and Kirsten touched on that a little bit in her goal setting for us, and also when she talked about you know, failing to take action. The unknown is scary, so many people fear that. I've had a lot of our young members tell us that they fear lifestyle changes. They don't want to sacrifice their current lifestyle just to own an investment property. For example, people might say to me, you know, look, Lou, I'm really not interested in having to not go out for dinner with my mates, you know, or not being able to go travel and see the world while I'm young because I've got this mortgage around my neck. One member I caught up with recently, she just bought her first property, and I overheard her say to her boyfriend, now I've told you this means one less coffee on the weekends because this place is going to cost me $5 a week, so it's one less coffee. And he's like, yep, I'm good with that, I'm right. He's like, it's my shout every time we have coffee now on Saturday morning. And lack of knowledge. I guess it's very easy in our society today to just Google anything. You know, we have smartphones and iPads and tablets, etc., at our fingertips. So, you know, I guess it's hard to, I guess, differentiate between all the information that is out there and to choose what type of information that we're going to listen to and act on. It's, I guess, very easy, and you will probably have seen, if you look at property investment, there are many strategies that you can use when investing in property. You know, if you're on tonight's webinar, you're probably aware of at least 5 other strategies that you can look at with respect to property. It might be, for example, renovating. It might be developing. You know, there's more than one strategy that people, I guess, promote when it comes to property. Obviously, the club, we look at buy and hold, but it does make it hard when we have all of this information at our fingertips to know who to trust and what information to trust. I mentioned earlier a quote from Adrian Hill because that's a book that I have been reading recently. And something else that sort of resonated with me is Adrian talked about money being a tool, and he talked about the need for us to see money as a means to an end rather than looking at it as an end in itself. So I guess he talks about knowing that our ultimate goal is not to accumulate as much money as we can in the bank, but to use the money that passes through our hands, I guess, in our lifetime to give us the best possible quality of life. So touching on some of Kirsten's themes, it's about thinking of our life as a journey that we're taking. It might be, for example, think about it as a long distance car trip, and money is simply the fuel that keeps us moving, probably as much as the same way as the food we eat gets us through each day. So one of the ways in which we can do that, Adrian suggests, is to think about being dispassionate about allocating appropriate amounts of money to our living expenses, our home loan repayments, our entertainment, all of those different components, I guess, that we need to fund in our life so that we can set aside as much money as possible for our investing to help us achieve our goals. So on that note, I'm going to get Kai to run a quick poll for us, please. The poll we've got up here is about what we fear the most.
And that poll is up and running for everyone. So please select one. Which do you fear the most? And we'll wait for, just looking for 80% of the people to vote. Oh, wait, there we go. People are clicking out. And I'll close that poll down and share the results. And Lou, we have 70% debt, 50% losing money, and 33% the unknown.
Thanks, Kai.
Back to you.
They're not surprising results. Lovely, thank you. So on that note, the majority of us are scared about debt. How can we help? And by we, I mean the Property Club and your property mentor. So your mentor is an experienced investor themselves. They have been through the ups and downs, the highs and lows, the peaks and troughs of owning an investment property. They can talk to you about their experience, and they can also talk to you about the experience of their other members. Our property mentors are based nationally, and we undergo training ourselves, and we're part of a large network. So we also have the ability to draw on other people's experiences. We have many free publications for our club members. On the side there, the image you've got of the top 10 traps is just one of the publications we have. We've got hints and traps booklets. We have regular or bi-monthly property investor magazines that come out for our members. So they're useful tools for you to touch base with your property mentor to get your hands on and start to have a read. Most importantly, they're written for somebody who has a basic level of understanding in investing. So it's not written in, for example, legal jargon or accountant speak. It's written for your average Joe Blow to be able to read and understand. We hold regular workshops and webinars. So we run introductory webinars. We run webinars like this that are purely focused around our Young Investors Club members. And our workshops can vary from introductory workshops to property expos. We have a national conference every year where we have guest speakers such as economists. Bernard Salt was at our last annual conference. The year before that we had Koshi from Channel 7, for example. As a club member, you get regular updates from Kevin Young. He's our club founder and director. They include property insights, our rate club, where Kevin gives you his predictions about what interest rates are doing and discusses topics such as fixed rates versus variable interest rates. We've got comprehensive member benefits, which include our unique circle of safety. That's one of the handouts that Kai's popped in for you to be able to access this evening. So have a look at that and see what our member benefits include. We've got cash flow prediction software, which I talked about earlier, being an important goal that you know what your property costs you. So your property mentor has software that we can analyse those numbers for you to help you figure out what type of property price range is achievable for you. And you also get access to, for example, our club preferred and recommended accountants and solicitors. So we work with professionals in their field who are experienced in working with property investors. So, what next? Have a chat with your property mentor. Confirm your borrowing capacity. So you can do that by filling out the financial wealth check. Plan your goal or goals, as it might be. Again, using Kirsten's handout could be a good starting point for you. It's important to ask lots of questions. Come along to one of our events, whether that be either online or in person. Join our webinar series. And you can follow us on social media. So particularly for Young Investors Club, on our Facebook page, we post information about our webinars, our events, different promotions we have happening over the different months, for example. We also try and put some information that we're getting from Kevin Young. We put a lot of his, for example, property insights or market updates on our Facebook page as well, just because it's easy, for you to be able to see that information quickly, read it while you're on the train, etc. So at this stage, I've got a few moments where we can look at questions. And Kai, I've got some here that I can see and answer.
Okay.
I've got one where a member said, I don't know how to get my savings on track. Can you offer any ideas, please? So I guess one place I would suggest that you might want to have a look is the Money Smart website. It's a federal government website, I'm pretty sure. It's not state-based. And it's quite useful because it has different things, for example, like a budget planner. It has a Track My Spending app, so you can download that, and as you're, spending receipt thing, asking for receipts, etc., you can enter them into the app to help you track your spending. Now that can be useful from the perspective of seeing if you're sticking to the budget you might have set, or initially it might be useful to see where you actually spend your money and use that to guide you about how to set a realistic budget. It's also got a savings goal calculator, so that could be quite a useful tool, especially when we've looked at Kirsten speaking to us tonight about setting realistic and achievable goals. Another question that I've got is, when I plan to buy a property, when is the best time to buy? Somebody's asked. So I guess the simplistic answer to that is, if you intend to adopt a buy and hold strategy and hold property for the long term and have a long-term plan, then the right time is always now. CoreLogic, their latest pain and gain report, so that's a report that I guess details information about units and houses that have been sold in a particular quarter. Statistics are kept about the period of time that those properties have been owned for, And it details for us, I guess, comparisons of the recent sale price to the previous sale price to determine whether the property has been sold at a gross profit or a gross loss. And the latest report that came out shows us that whether a property had been purchased for investment or owner-occupier purposes, it should be seen as a long-term investment. Those homes that had been resold at a loss had an average length of ownership of about 6.7 years. Across all sale recordings, the gross profit average length of ownership was recorded at about 10.1 years. While those properties which were sold for more than double their purchase price were owned for an average of 17.7 years. So I guess if we look at that information that CoreLogic have put together in their pain and gain report for us, it shows us that it doesn't really matter when we purchase the property if we're going to adopt a buy and hold approach. Obviously things like low interest rates, rents increasing, low rental vacancy rates, those are some conditions for purchasing and holding a property that make things maybe more favourable than at other times. So I hope that answers that question. Now I've seen another one come through, Kai. What's the difference between a property manager and body corporate? So the property manager is typically the person that you pay to manage your property. They would normally work for a real estate agent, and it's their job to manage your property and collect your rent. Part of managing your property would be, for example, conducting routine inspection reports, providing your tenants with notices, for example, if they're behind in their rent, or if you've had a noise complaint from an animal, relating to an animal, that type of thing. So a property manager is the person who looks after your rent collection and management of your property, organising repairs, maintenance, that type of thing. The body corporate is only relevant for those property. It's not relevant for house and land, for example. It's relevant for those properties like units, apartments, townhouses. And the body corporate is more interested in the complex as a whole and looking after the complex than, for example, collecting rent from your tenant. So the body corporate is interested in making sure, for example, you as the owner pay your levies so that funds are put aside to do the gardening, to maintain the gutters on the property, that type of thing. So I hope that answers that question about what's the difference between a property manager and body corporate. We've probably got a couple more minutes left if anyone has got any other questions they would like to send through.
I think we're good. I've typed a couple of responses to some people, so I think we got all our bases covered.
Lovely, that's great. So let me just go, Rob, to navigate me back to our slides. So how can you get in contact with us? You can contact a Young Investors Club ambassador at yic@propertyclub.com.au. You can shoot me an email, and between Rob and I, we will answer you and steer you in the right direction. Message us on Facebook, contact us through our website, or you can get in contact with your property mentor. And finally, we're just going to touch on some of the events we've got coming up. So keep an eye out for us on Facebook, and you will see in the coming months we're planning on putting together some social events for our members. Look out for regular email updates from myself. You should have received an email about tonight's webinar, I think last week, letting you know that it was on so that you could register. Any events that we have will be advertised in our Property Investor magazine. You might get that in either hard copy or via email from us. But the next event we've got coming up, if you have a look, is our Welcome to Property Club webinar. So it's next Tuesday, the 19th of April. The times are there. And if you want the details regarding that webinar, you can get in contact with your mentor and I'll send you the registration link. So that might be useful.
Oh, sorry, Lou. I've just sent that out in the chat box. So if people look
Lovely.
At the box, you have 2
Thank you,
webinar
Kai.
invites there.
Fabulous. So you've put the Hot Property Series one in there as well?
Yes.
Great. And I have a sneaky suspicion Rob and I are hosting that one, so you'll get to hear my lovely voice again. But thank you for joining us this evening. I hope the webinar has been of some benefit to you. As Kai mentioned earlier on when we started the webinar, a recording will be sent out to you in the next couple of days. So thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Lou. I will keep the presentation going for a couple more minutes. If you have any questions, please type them in now. Otherwise, we'll shut the webinar down in a couple minutes from now. And again, we have those 2 webinar links in the chat box. The first, an introductory webinar on Tuesday, April 19th, and then a second webinar on Tuesday, April the 26th, which will be property focused. So those 2 events are in the chat box. Thank you once again, Lou and Rob and Kirsten, who've put on a great show tonight. Have a good night.